Meeting of the. Oh, we're good now, Rachel? Yep. Okay, and everybody can. I think our technical team did fantastic this morning, so yeah. This morning, Lloyd, you are with us and you have our invitation.
And a mouthful of peanut butter. Today's invocation is from Leonard Cohen from Anthem. The birds they sang at the break of day. Start again, I heard them say, don't dwell on what has passed away or what is yet to be. The wars, they will be fought again. The holy dove, she will be caught again. Bought and sold and bought again. The dove is never free. Ring the bells that still can ring. Forget your perfect offering. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in.
Very nice. I love Leonard Cohen.
Excellent, very much. This morning, our acknowledgement is the municipality of Clarington is situated within the traditional and treaty territory of the Mississauga and Chippewas, known today as the Williams Treaty First Nations. Our work on these lands acknowledges the resilient and long-standing contributions to the area now known as the municipality of Clarington. President or Secretary-elect Lloyd, because you'll notice that we've got a couple of missing people that I believe are en route, if that's correct, Rachel. Somewhere warmer than here.
They are.
So we're always going to do our birthdays and anniversaries for this week and next.
There are no anniversaries, no birthdays, or service of both selves recognition today. However, for next week, we have an evening meeting and there won't be any announcements. So in advance, April 1st, Pauline Calvert has a birthday. And Ted Watson has 32 years of service above self.
Yeah. So want to come and introduce our speaker. Sorry, I should have, that was my bad. Okay. I can't be perfect ever, so we might as well get used to it. Our guest this morning. So from Soper Creek Wildlife, Stephanie and Justin, and past president David Kenny is joining us as well, who's now part of the Oshawa Club. So welcome to our guest.
Morning. I'm going to introduce Stephanie to Stephanie is the Soper Creek Wildlife Rescue founder. She is a provincially licensed wildlife custodian. She's one of 3 internationally certified wildlife rehabilitators in Ontario and one of 30 in Canada. So she's a rare bird. As a certified wildlife rehabilitator, her knowledge of wildlife rehabilitation and standard of care is amongst the highest in the world. Stephanie graduated from the University of Guelph with a Bachelor of Science, majoring in zoology. She has dedicated her life to exotic, domesticated, and native wildlife and has over 20 years of experience. The center also provides educational opportunities for our youth by maintaining.
And then you got to put a book for some person.
And every summer there are various for all ages.
And then people know it's yours. I see. I got to set up camp like a homeless person right on this fucking chair.
Again, my apologies, Leanna. If anybody who's online,
This dude's got to set up with a fucking Nintendo.
Oh my!
Of this hotel. What he snap his fingers and everyone jumps to it.
Rachel has to mute. Rachel, mute. No, let's not turn them off. Well, I think we ruined our one opportunity for a good time today.
So on top of all of this, I consider Stephanie to be a shining light in our community as she and her amazing crew provided entertainment throughout the COVID years with the drive-by light show at Christmas time. That was both stunning and a great fundraiser. And this year, the Wild Winter Festival of Lights was able to donate to many charities, including the Canadian Jumpstart, Canadian Tire Jumpstart. And this year alone, they were able to donate $20,000, correct? to Jumpstart Charities, which helps ensure that all children have an opportunity to participate in sports. So they give to both children in the educational about nature and animals, and to other charities in sports. That's great. And so here she is today to talk to us, and she's welcome, Stephanie. I was going to say she's brought some critters, but you haven't.
I do. I know. We're gonna bring them out at the end. It's not fair to everyone who's on Zoom. So we'll bring them out. So let me just, I know that's me able to see my face. That's so short. Let's see how this works. So you would, I know, I should just carry around the stool with me. So you want me to share my screen now? Is that Joe?
Sure.
Oh, look at that little critter.
Show. Beginning. Can everybody see it? Yeah. I don't know if the people on Zoom are going to be able to see my face, but I'm going to step to the side so everyone who's actually here in person can see me. Should I wait for that to be on? Well, we're going to start anyway. So Joe's working on it. So I'm sure most of you know who I am. I've been to Rotary presenting for the past couple of years. Unfortunately, COVID has kept me away, so now we're in this new fantastic location. But for those of you that don't know about our Wildlife Center, we're Durham Region's only wildlife rehabilitation center. And although we are the only one located within Durham, our reach just isn't for Durham itself. We go all the way to Pepperloft, which is about an hour and 15 minutes. Napanee is the next closest wildlife center, and then Toronto Wildlife. So we have a really big area that we're able to take animals in from. And even during the busy season, we have animals from all over Ontario when other wildlife centers fill up, that they actually transport those animals into our care. So a couple of cool pictures here. Our veterinarian, or one of our veterinarians, Dr. Allison Sutton, she actually just performed one of her first eye surgeries on an owl that was able to be released about 3 weeks ago. So that was kind of cool. And our goal for taking in all of these animals is making sure that they go back into the wild. So we have lots of different regulations in terms of where these animals can go back to. Even with COVID right now, things are a lot more tighter. Animals have to go back in within 1 kilometer from where they came from. And that's really important for the management of the overall environment, the ecosystem. As much as everyone thinks we open up the doors at the Wildlife Center and release everything into our forest, obviously that's not sustainable for the environment that we're in. So it's really important that these animals are going back to where they came from. Now, one thing that we do not get any assistance at all from the government for the free work we do. Although we still have all the veterinary bills, all of our medical supplies. As you guys know, you guys have donated an incubator, and milk and whatnot. We really rely on the community support, but also we have all these different little ventures to be able to offset the expenses of the wildlife hospital. So we do a lot of out-of-the-box thinking in terms of the different educational programming that we offer. We do lots of in-class events. We go to festivals, fairs, and those help support our initiatives for the wildlife hospital itself. Now, we are an outdoor education facility, and the really cool thing, we've actually just become, all of our staff have become facilitators under the forest programming. So there aren't, I think it's what, 50 people in total in Ontario are actually forest practitioners or licensed forest practitioners. So all of our staff are now licensed to teach the environment within our classroom settings. So that's something that we've been able to do during COVID, is actually have the kids that were either doing virtual school or homeschooling come onto our property and do curriculum-based learning with our forest practitioners. We do year-round programming. We're just getting back into the schools now. So I guess at the end of April, we're going to be allowed to go back into the schools, as I mentioned, the festival events. And we travel all over Ontario, but also New Brunswick doing our programming as well. And we also offer private tours of our facility. So people or groups are able to come in, they learn about the wildlife hospital itself. They go for a tour of our enchanted forest. Those are all the animals that can't go back into the wild. They go through a hike through our forest where they can see, we have a rainbow bridge that was actually donated by a family. They lost their daughter when she was dying to cancer, and they had donated a rainbow bridge.
where we have special services. We allow people that have lost loved ones to leave notes on the bridge. So we make sure that everybody has the ability to really reconnect and find themselves being, it's just a moment for everyone to kind of connect with themselves and appreciate nature and the wild world around them. Our newest adventure, which hasn't even opened yet, we're opening it as of the first week of May, is we're doing overnight camping experiences. We have a separate property just down the street from us, which is about 15 acres, that we are using for fundraising efforts for the Wildlife Hospital. And they are going to be very unique experiences where people can actually spend the night in a big geodome. It's about 700 square feet. You can stargaze, you get to go on hiking trails. You have a wildlife educator actually goes through wilderness survival skills with you. We teach you how to start fires. We go through different hikes on the terrain. There's about 6 different hiking trails. We teach you all the camping necessities, how to barbecue and on all that fantastic stuff. So that's kind of our newest adventure that we've just started. We don't even have the website out to the public yet. So you guys are kind of the first to know our major new event. So in general, for those of you who haven't had an opportunity to come and visit our wildlife center, we're on 15 acres of the Oak Ridges Moraine, which is a protected forest. So we are responsible for making sure that that forest is maintained. There's large trees. We have to make sure that the smaller trees that are competing with the large trees come down. And Justin actually recycles all of that material when he's building all of his enclosures. So everything is built out of natural material. Everything inside of the enclosures is used with natural material or from recycled objects from the community. So we have Bowmanville wood, they donate wood pallets and that sort of thing to make sure that the animals are living, whether it's permanently or if it's through the rehabilitation process, in a really natural environment. It's not so easy to get to us for the public. You're dropping off animals, we're kind of out of the way, but it's really the best environment to allow these animals to flourish, to then be successfully released back into the wild. And that's really what we're looking for, is that successful release. Those animals have to be able to escape predators, or they have to be able to hunt. They have to be able to find food, water, and build shelter or make a home. So we want to provide them with all these specific, aspects to be able to show what they can do. Now, there is a section of our forest that's completely dedicated to our wildlife animals. No one has access other than maybe 1-2 volunteers, if that, a day. And that's where the animals really do their final leg of rehabilitation. They have to meet specific milestones. So a little squirrel that comes in, we actually have a bunch of them right now. They're about the size of just bigger than a jelly bean. They will be with us for about 16 weeks. And at the very end, the last 3 or 4 weeks, they'll go into the forest where they don't have a lot of human contact other than when we go in and give them food, but we have to be able to observe certain things from them. So squirrels have to be able to hang upside down. They have to be able to have their tail bushy and go along their back. They need to be able to crack a walnut. And these are things that we're able to observe from sitting back within the forest without being intrusive to them. So I know it's been about, 2 years since I've been here, and we've all had to deal with COVID, but I wanted to share with you exactly how COVID impacted our wildlife center. It was pretty bad for a long time. In April of 2020, we had to close down completely. We laid off all of our staff. We released all of our volunteers. It was just myself, Justin, and my kids who were then homeschooled at that time, having to take care of all of the animals that were already admitted, as well as our permanent residents. We have about 115 permanent residents that have been confiscated from the ministry and brought to us. Some have been rescues from the states. Some have been born into really bad circumstances. So there was still a large amount of work that needed to be done, along with the finances to be able to do that. But we had to obviously shut down all fundraisers, all of our going into schools. We were able to run 2 fundraisers online that helped get us through all the medical expenses. You guys will meet Edwin. He actually needs a wheelchair to be able to move around. He has medication that needs to be done. So those fundraisers were able to help offset that a little bit. And then in July, we were finally able to open, but we had so many restrictions put into place. We were only allowed to have 2 volunteers at a time. Typically, we have about 200 volunteers that volunteer for us. So we had 2 per shift, which was pretty difficult. The different restrictions that they had in place really was affecting what we could do in terms of generating a revenue to help support the wildlife hospital and what we were able to do within the hospital itself. Now, in order for us to be able to accommodate this restricted volunteer capacity that we had, we actually took out a loan to buy a separate school portable to be able to still accept the high number of animals and be able to socially distance all of our volunteers as well. It's now turned into our bird building, so it kind of worked out. But during the times when we weren't really sure what was going on, they had all of these really high restrictions in place that was able to allow us to keep moving forward. Even though we were closed down for about 4 months, we still took in about 1,500 animals with about a quarter of the amount of volunteers in total. I was very particular about the volunteers that were allowed on site. We did have a double vaccine mandate, and we did have the COVID tests that were provided by a municipality. And that's because the animals that live in our community can actually catch COVID. And if we were to release them back into the natural population, it would then affect the general public as well. And not a lot of people knew that was the case, or that still is the case. So there's so many different regulations in place right now for native wildlife because their ability to transmit COVID. We actually just finished doing a meeting, 3 days ago, with the University of Guelph and their wildlife biology department, and just figuring out how we can move forward with rapid testing for animals to make sure that they're actually safe before we can release them back into the public. So these are just some really cool animals that came into us in 2020. We had barred owls, we had a baby great horned owl, we had baby porcupines, and then we had a beaver that actually came in with a pretty bad broken leg. We also, in 2020, did the first annual Festival of Lights. We kind of threw it together in 3 or 4 weeks, and it was only because I found out the Farmers Drive-By Tractor Festival was canceled. It's my favorite thing to go to, and everything was canceled for my kids. So I figured, what can we do? I approached Orno Agriculture Society, and they welcomed us with open arms. They said, "Go ahead and use our fields or our track area." We reached out to so many community members to put together displays. We purchased displays. I mean, it was fantastic. In 3 days or 4 days, maybe, we completely sold out all the tickets. And in total, we had 3,000 vehicles go through in 3 days. And that was just open from 5 o'clock to I think 9 o'clock. So we had a massive amount of people, and we actually were able to raise over 10,000 non-perishable food items to give back to the local food banks. Before I had a great plan, I just said, we're going to take all the food. So we had to use that building that we had purchased for volunteers, and it was full. We have pictures where it was taller than my head walking into this portable schoolhouse, which was pretty fantastic. So we had volunteers sort it. We dropped it off at the 2 local food banks and 3 local food banks in Bowmanville to be able to make a difference. We also were able to raise $5,000 for a family who had just lost their house to a home fire. So we were able to help them a little bit, as well as providing them with some food and other personal items that they needed. So, I mean, it was a huge success. It was really great for us to be able to give back to the community, because the community always does everything for us. If we are low on cat food, someone will drop off cat food. If we need a roll of paper towels, there is someone banging on our door saying, "Here, take my partially used." And we really wanted to be able to say thank you to everyone for all of the kind things that they've done for us, especially during COVID when things are really, really hard for us. So when 2021 turned around, we were still unable to do about 75% of all of our events, schools, that sort of thing. We were able to do camps on property, but that again was certain regulations, and they had so many stipulations for having kids on property. We had 100-foot ropes where the kids had to hold the rope, and they were 7 feet apart because 6 feet was, the norm. So let's just go an extra foot. We had all these special things in place to make sure that it was safe. So we did have a form of revenue coming in at that time. And even though we weren't up to our regular, income coming in for the Wildlife Center, we accepted 2,000 animals last year. And we have received so many animals that I have never seen before that aren't supposed to be in this area. We've had flying squirrels that aren't in this area. We've had turkey vultures, which it was off season for them. We've had a lot of endangered species coming in, which is cool. We've just been licensed 2 years ago to take in species at risk in Ontario. And those are animals that require really a lot of special and niche care. And because I became one during the pandemic, I became one of 3 internationally certified rehabbers in Ontario. I was granted to have that license to be able to care for those species at risk. What did we do in the following December? We really destroyed the Ordo Fairgrounds track. We had to pay to have it all fixed and smoothed back out because it rained every single day. I remember I was doing the last Facebook walk around and I walked by this woman in a van and it was up to her sliding door. She wasn't moving anywhere. So we decided that we did not want to do any more damage to the nice people in Orno. So Mossport, or Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, was nice enough to allow us to use their driver development track this year. And it was fantastic. We were able to have 135,000 people attended our event over 8 days. We had 2 times that we had to actually shut down because of the windstorm and stuff was blowing all over everywhere and it wasn't safe to be there, but we still had a massive amount of people attend and people were driving 300 kilometers or more. We had to track all of their tickets, our statistics and everything. The average person was driving 60 kilometers to be able to come to the festival, which was really cool to see that type of support. And our goal for this again was to be able to give back to the community. We raised about 10,000 pounds of non-perishable food items for the food banks. And the way we had set it up was every day for the festival, there was a specific food bank regulated to that day. So they would bring all their volunteers to collect their food, report back to us how much they were able to take in. So there's 10 different food banks that was able to participate in that. We were able to raise about $50,000 to local charities, including the $20,000 for Jumpstart Canada, which was specifically for the Durham chapter. So we know that that money is going back into our specific location or our region. We did smaller charities like the Super Sophia Project, Olivia's Elves. We helped a number of families on a personal level who had reached out for assistance. So we were able to collectively do $50,000 from that event alone, which was pretty fantastic. We have been asked by Canadian Tire Motorsport Park to go back again this year. So we're really excited to be able to see what we're going to be able to do for 2022. So another good thing that we had about the Festival of Lights was that it was able to help us with a tiny home. And we purchased a tiny home in December that we're transforming into an ICU building. And that's because there are a lot of different diseases that are now becoming predominant in wildlife, including a specific strain of avian influenza. Right now in Nova Scotia, no wildlife center is allowed to accept any type of shorebird. And if they do come into a wildlife center, they have to be euthanized automatically and sent off for testing. We have had now reported cases in Ontario. So we're trying to battle a lot of different diseases that are coming in that can really do or run havoc on our wildlife. Yes, it is the shorebirds or waterfowl are a host for it, but they can spread it to every type of bird. And now there's mammals that can also catch it. So we have to really devise a special quarantine unit, and that's what this ICU building is going to be able to do, is really make sure that we can quarantine those animals for 30 days, make sure that there's no signs or symptoms before putting them into the other portion of the wildlife center. As I mentioned, we are also going to be opening in May our wilderness villas. It is an adult only resort, and we have a couple of weekends that are limited for families as well, so we can include the kids. Most of our campers really enjoy being able to teach the parents what they've learned at our programming, so we are going to have special opportunities for families to be able to attend. But for the most part, it's going to be an adult only resort where you can do forest therapy, a lot of meditation. We have a gentleman that's working with us for mental wellness as well. So they're going to be able to do journaling, have special retreats dedicated just to the overall health of adults, because we've been in a really tough time for the last 2 years, and there's nothing better than going into the forest and kind of losing yourself and being able to reconnect. Okay, so what's going on for 2022? We've already started to accept our neonates. Those are a little picture of the 2 little jelly beans. We're now up to 8 jelly beans. They came in weighing between 15 grams and 5 minutes. Don't worry, I'll wrap it up. I could talk forever, but the little jelly beans are in, and we have staff and volunteers now feeding these guys every hour, which that even goes through the night as well. As I had mentioned, we are working with a number of vets as well as the University of Guelph to become a licensed veterinary hospital. So that is kind of the next thing that we're planning on. And that way we can have a full-time veterinarian on staff, just because the high level of animals that are coming in, I think it's because everyone is now connecting with nature. People are going out for more walks. We've been forced to find alternatives to our fast-paced life. And this means people are being more observant for these animals. So we're seeing lots of other injuries that we haven't seen in the past. So it'd be nice to be able to be an actual, accredited veterinary hospital. So that's something that we're looking at doing as well. And again, we're always working with the ministry for all of these new policies for especially COVID. Just yesterday, we had a new COVID mandate put in place for how we house all the animals and the PPE that we have to now wear. So there's lots of extra things that we have to be able to deal with. And that's not just for the animal safe, but it's for the general public safe as well. Because again, who knew that a squirrel can transfer COVID back to the public? So again, we want to make sure that we can educate people on these forms as well. And even earlier, I am done. So if there's any questions, well, people ask questions. Justin's going to take around Edwin. So if anybody wants to pet Edwin, he'll put his mask up and then you guys can pet Edwin away. Edwin is the skunk that came to us 6 years. He's been around for 6 years. So he's 6 years old. He has a degenerative problem in his back leg. So he has a special wheelchair that he uses when he goes out normally and he's not carried around. So Justin's just going to carry him around. So I promise you he won't spray. He doesn't stink. My plan was to bring Vinny the porcupine, who everybody loves when he usually sits here and eats his banana. But it's mating season for porcupines and they pee on themselves to attract the ladies. So that's what he smells like right now. And I figured I didn't want to stink out your room. So the best bet was to go with skunk.
Can you stop sharing your screen?
I can shop. I can do that for sure. Yeah. Okay, perfect.
There's always questions.
There's always questions.
Yes, Mr. Wallace.
Yeah, I never have a question, but so you're very unique. I'm going to use that voice because I can hardly take care of my cat. What kind of? You must have some kind of certificate. Like you get all these different animals, and is there something you can't take in because you say like I'm not qualified to take care of a koala bear or something? Or
Yeah, so that's a great question. Because I'm an international certified rehabber, I can take anything because I've had to go through different testing for it. We choose not to take in raccoons because there's a lot of diseases that are very susceptible to humans that are fatal to people. And it would just take a volunteer to not listen to the rules and get very sick. So we don't take raccoons. We also, because we are still so young and the infrastructure that you need to have in place for bears and cougars. Other than that, we take absolutely everything.
but do you have to go through any kind of certification to do what you do?
So
You mentioned that, yeah.
So I've done the international program, which took about a year to be able to complete that. But before that, I had to have an X number of hours to get our license for the wildlife center itself. Then we have to go through ministry testing as well as a bird test. So every department has different testing for the ministry that you have to do.
So like the MNR is like your governing body.
It sure is.
Yeah, so it's like basically like it's because again, you're kind of unique.
So
It's
yeah,
not
so
like that.
they give us our license, we pay the money, and then they
Oh.
drop animals off to us. And they say, yes, you're able to do this. They're the ones that pass down any new animal regulations that we have to adhere to. But they actually, because wildlife rehabilitation in Canada isn't seen in the same light as it is in the States, they are very important. Rehabbers aren't seen as important at all in Canada. We're more of a nuisance to anybody than anything. They just kind of push us off into the corner. Here, you've done all of your tests. I took it upon myself because I really want to make sure that these animals have a high standard of care. So I took that extra step, although it's not actually required in Ontario or in Canada.
I have a question.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question. Yeah, put them up to the camera there so we can see them. Here we go.
You're right in
There we
there.
are. There we are. Yeah, okay. Hey.
Are you right downtown Orno?
No, so we originally lived in Orno and then we sold our family home to start Soper Creek. So we're in Tyrone. We're off of Concession 7 in Gibbs. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how many, you've met like, I don't know, 10,000 animals or something like you can do. Give me a story about one, like something surprising that made you go, Oh, wow.
Okay.
Like that you never knew or something that just, made you-
Yeah, okay, so I've got a good one. Last year, we had, we worked closely with a lot of different municipal bylaws. We had Clarington call us and say, hey, there's a hop down on the road, can we bring it into you? So they brought it in. And upon, looking at it initially, we're like, okay, well, he has a broken leg, like, let's take a look at his leg. But we then found out when we took him to go get x-rays that he had been shot. And he had a gunshot through his heel out the other side. And in about 4 months, we were able to heal him and he was released. And the only reason that we found, because it's hard with birds, they have their down feathers and they heal very quickly because they also metabolize about 18 times faster than what a mammal does. So they heal really quickly. But we were looking at one thing and we just, okay, well, it's just a little bit clumpy here. We're cleaning it. We sent him off to the vets a couple of hours later. And then you see that he's actually been shot. So that completely caught me off guard because we've never had an animal come into the wildlife center that has been shot before. And it just kind of blew us away. And the damage that was done on the outside, you would think that it would have been the same on the inside. We were surprised how well he did and how fast he was able to actually get released. Yeah. Red tail hawk.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, this year we've taken in, we have a red tail hawk in right now. He was hit by a car and he was actually stuck to the front grill of the car, which actually happens more than not with hit by cars. They actually get stuck to the front and they don't actually have a lot of damage, surprisingly, because the impact they were able to actually push through the front grill of the trucks.
You said you get endangered animals sometimes.
Mhm.
So what do you do with them once you're done?
They go.
Presumably you have to go through some process you don't just release them.
Yeah, so we do have to just release them. Upon arrival to the wildlife center, we actually have to notify the Ministry of Natural Resources that we have a sorrow species or a species at risk in our care. We have to give them the detailed plan of what we're going to be doing to care for these animals. They give us the go-ahead, and then we just go through rehab like we normally would, and they have to go back exactly from where they came from, with the exception if it's in someone's backyard and it's smaller than 100 by 100, or if it's found really close to an intersection. Lots of times then when we have to go out of those bounds, we have to call the ministry and say, hey, this is exactly where that animal is going to be released. So we have to really communicate with the Ministry of Natural Resources for those types of animals.
So what happens if it's an animal that was brought into the country from somewhere else?
So we don't take anything that's out that's not native to Ontario. So if it was like a kangaroo or a wallaby, we can help place those animals because I used to work at a zoo for 10 years and then the line started before that. So I can help place those animals and we can give them a place to quarantine for their 14 days, but then we'll find a proper place to be able to relocate those animals. Yeah.
All right. I think we're about time, but thank you.
Thanks for having me back, guys. I know, there's at least one. At least one. I'm actually happy to bring Vinny. Just carrying his, Vinny, for those of you who've seen him, he's now 56 pounds. So trying to carry his body up those stairs with the pee smell would have just been awful. Thanks. Happy Bucks. I'll grab the. We're gonna buy her. Oh, hi, Lloyd. Oh, something's big in your life this week.
I have a big one. I have one happy buck. Today is my daughter's birthday. She turns 1.
I particularly like the photo with her with the superhero. Yeah. She's gonna be the next superhero.
So I got a couple. I got bullied into explaining Sully's misfortune this morning. It wasn't, although it sounded just like him, it wasn't Sully's voice. It was apparently Howard Stern's. So it wasn't that Sully was going on a Howard Stern like tirade. It was actually Howard Stern. And he wasn't aware that he could hear it, or we could hear it. So everybody's buying that story.
No.
Here you go, Sully. I tried. And the real happy buck was you owe me $2, Sully. Is so on the weekend we decided to do something that's a little out of the ordinary. So we went on Kim and I went on a date in the afternoon. We went down to Kim's Convenience to buy some lottery tickets. Is anybody a fan of Tim's Convenience? Because you can actually go to the store. And so I cautioned him, we parked kind of far away, walked down to the store. So let's try to not look like tourists, right? We want to look like we fit in. We just want to get some, maybe some potato chips and some lottery tickets, right? So we must have been in there for about, I don't know, 4 or 5 seconds. And he said, "Are you looking for Joan?" And it's like, how does the guy spot us like right away, right? And anyway, it was quite an experience. It involved lunch and everything. You can do a lot of different things without spending a lot of money going to an attraction. And we did spend $21 on a lottery ticket, but we might win $50 million. There's a lot of things you can do in Ontario without spending big bucks anyway. I don't think there's a
You
lot
wanna
of
go ahead,
things
Dave?
insurance fans, they're just you.
Thank you. I was told by Amy that I could have a couple of minutes. I'm going to try to sell you something, but it was going to cost me $50. So
Seems fair.
Okay.
I'll put a few extra $50 in there for you. The Oshawa Parkwood Club has restarted its reverse draw dinner and silent auction. COVID kind of scratched it for the last 2 years, but they're up and running now for their 33rd reverse draw. And that's, I think that's a testament to the fact that it's a pretty good evening out. And it's been a real winner in terms of raising money for the club. And of course, money goes back in the community, just like any other Rotary club. Proceeds support, I won't kill you with this one, but Lake Ridge Health Foundation, Kids Safety Village, Participation House, and on and on. One of the biggest things we did this year, we've done it just the last few months. Waverly Public School in Oshawa is in an area where the parents really aren't in a position to raise the money to put in a playground. And we topped up $27,000 for them so they could put in a playground, and they're going to be putting that in the spring. I think it cost just over $60,000, and they had sold bottles or collected bottles. They'd done everything for 2 or 3 years. They were exhausted. So we, I don't know how we managed to we got 10,000 from the club, and we got 17,000 from club members to close the door for them. So that was, I would say, kind of a big win in the last little while. The proceeds go to supporting these things. The event's going to be held at the Courtyard Marriott in Oshawa. I don't know if any of you have seen it. It's not the old, it is the sort of like the old Holiday Inn, but it's not the old Holiday Inn anymore. It's actually a really beautiful, beautiful facility. Same place as the District 7070 conference is going to be. The prize is $2,000, and every 20 ticket drawn gets $100. It's going to be held June 2nd, and we would really like Rotarians to support this. And I do have tickets with me. I will give you a ticket, and we can arrange to get the money later. I've also got a poster I can leave with you, and there you are. Do I have any takers for a ticket or a poster? I don't have to take your money right now, Steve. Thank you. Thank you. You're also going to be able to spend the evening with Assistant Governor Gord Wallace and his wife. They have already.
That is fantastic.
I mean, I figure I should get another 10 sales on that one.
So Chris, Steve, you guys still want to do it?
Okay, thank you.
I'll take 2.
Okay, excellent.
We'll make sure it's in the bulletin too, Dave.
What's that?
We'll make sure it's in the bulletin.
Yep, okay, thank you.
So I just wanted to report back. Nice to be back, by the way. Okay, while I was in Mexico, I went to Rotary at the Autism Club, which we made a donation to a couple of years ago. Eddie says 2,100. That's what he says. Whatever. Anyway, the schools were closed because we had asked them to do something with some of the local schools. So they haven't done anything to money, but he said he's going to keep us abreast. Now that the schools are open, they're targeting, they're going to be targeting some programs that they will take on. So maybe I can invite him to Zoom in with us. We have a better idea. So
Welcome back.
thanks.
All right. Oh, okay. All right.
I got 5 happy bucks. I saw my second orthopedic surgeon for my foot 2 weeks ago. I was informed that my foot is as good as it's going to be. Put a screw in it, but it probably wouldn't work. And he told me I'd never wear heels again.
That must make you happy.
I went home and I put on a pair of heels. My foot doesn't hurt anymore. I'm
Excellent.
wearing heels.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you're wearing heels today, that's for sure.
Yep, so much for the doctors.
All right. So on to our community report. Peter, I'm not sure,
Hello.
you're going to introduce somebody who you may or may not have met?
Yes, I am. I'm very happy to introduce our next speaker. I think everybody in the Rotary Club is
Photobomb.
Photobomb, yeah. Very familiar with Autism Home Base Durham, local grassroots social club for young adults with autism and their family caregivers. The group has grown quite a bit over the last few years. Our extended family is now up to close to 200 members and still growing. So it's really nice to be able to see these young people be able to get out of their comfort zone. They can get out of the house, meet people, do a lot of different things that we're able to provide for them. So it really brings us a lot of joy to be able to see that. So I'm just going to turn it over to Judy right away. And here she is, the founder and CEO of Autism Home Base, Judy Hansen.
Best intro ever. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for the opportunity to check back in. I was just looking back on my calendar. It was actually 2018 when I first joined the club. You were in the basement of the Trinity Church there, and we ate breakfast, and then I shared the journey of a few dozen families who had banded together to support each other and create a circle around our autistic adult children who had at that time all aged out of school. We know that community integration has come a long way, and especially now for little ones, there's a conscious effort towards inclusion. Things like Little League and Scouts and Brownies are very inclusive, but all of that ends for those who are over 18. For those of us with adult kids, there are government-funded services that we could waitlist to access if we were in crisis, things like day programs or therapeutic interventions, or even group homes if we were ready to relinquish care for our kids, but we weren't. Some of us had kids who were pretty independent. I remember one worked part-time, one had a volunteer gig, and one was in Durham College at the time. The rest of us all had kids that had more profound needs. Some couldn't communicate at all, and others had intense idiosyncratic behaviors that sort of precluded their involvement, their successful involvement in the community. And for those of us that were full-time caregivers, it meant we didn't have a fulsome life either. We recognized that we also need social connections, not simply because it makes us able to provide longer care and better care, which of course it does, but also just our own value as human beings. We really needed a reasonable quality of life as well. So we each chipped in $100 a year, which was a lot for some of us who had retired earlier, were trying to work from home while balancing the role of a primary caregiver. And we registered as a charity, and we recruited a generous and skilled volunteer board of directors to sort of steer our way. And we all volunteered as activity leaders, or in my case, grant writing. We did a lot of grassroots fundraising. And we rented the rec center, just an hour a week at the time. And we did sort of a gym and swim, and then we expanded to offer some music and offer some arts. So really the vision had come true. We were no longer isolated. We were out of the house and connected to a supportive community. And then as the numbers grew, the type and number of activities evolved as well. And so fast forward for probably the time I spoke to you, we were delivering programs across Southern Durham region at community venues like libraries, parks, art centers in Pickering, Ajax, Whitby, Oshawa, and Clarington. And then in 2019, at a stakeholder engagement leading up to our strategic planning process, it became really clear that we needed a physical space of our own. The community venues were working really well for those of us who could be successful when they were sort of out and about in the community. But it was really tough to realize the true vision and goals of supportive friendships through just program time. So we would be in the library, but then our hour is up and we've all got to leave. There was no sort of organic time to network, which was really the point of it. And more troubling still was that those most profoundly affected by autism were still not successful in community venues. They would struggle with changing environments or crowds, or even new staff who weren't trained or empowered to make accommodations. And then one bad experience would drive those families back into isolation. So we knew we needed a safe space of our own where we could promise a consistent environment with built-in accommodations. We opened the door of our Autism Hub in the old fire hall in Bowmanville in mid-January 2020, just before the COVID closures. I think, Leah, you visited just in that 6 weeks between our opening and temporary closures. Over the past couple of years, the ongoing response to the pandemic has had an extraordinary extraordinary effect on all of our families and friends and work. At Autism Home Base, we had 4 part-time staff, 3 summer students, and a slew of volunteers that propelled us forward through those unprecedented times. Now, annually, as Peter mentioned, we have more than 200 participants that enjoy sports, recreation, arts, social wellness offerings through virtual and hybrid program delivery. And we anticipate keeping everything hybrid. It just takes away so many barriers, not just geography, but also if somebody's just having a bad day or can't leave the house, they're still able to connect. However, with sedentary screen time at an all-time high, we're focused on getting people up and moving away from the screen and active. And so we've been consulting with actually the Exergaming Center of Canada, which is located at the University of Calgary. And they are studying the impact and opportunity of combining exercise and technology to inspire active lifestyles in autism. So we're really looking at, folks who are very comfortable with technology and on technology all the time. How do we leverage that into active lifestyles? And we hope that those practices will become part of their lifestyle. I also wanted to let you know that we're a voice at the national table now too, and we participated at the Canadian Autism Leadership Summit in Ottawa, both as panelists and as speakers. I think that it's recognized that we're building something really, really important and unique in Ontario and most of Canada. Services for adults are so fragmented, and the government is starting to take notice. We're really so grateful for your ongoing support. We have kept our annual family fee at $100, but certainly it's just not enough. We are exploring other funding models, but we keep coming back to economic accessibility, especially for marginalized friends and neighbors. We have some members who can't pay the $100, the one-time fee. Instead, they pay $8.95 a month. So we look for external support other than just trying to be self-funded as families. We are supported through annual community grants from municipalities, and we access grants for summer students and private foundations. We're also supported by Rotary clubs in Pickering, Ajax, Oshawa, and Curtis, and we just recently introduced ourselves to Whitby Rotary. We also, the families do an annual letter writing campaign every Christmas to our friends and neighbors. And we had been holding an annual event pre-COVID where we seek corporate sponsors and partners. So I just really wanted you to know that we don't take your support for granted for 1 minute. You were our first and closest Rotary Club ally, and we're really looking forward to welcoming a representative of the club at our funder appreciation reception, which is on April 1st, the eve of World Autism Day. Just waiting to hear back who can join us, but you're very welcome. And then finally, I just wanted to quickly mention that on April 2nd, World Autism Day, we are having our a car rally as our fundraiser this year. So this was our alternative to our gala, and COVID safe and family friendly. We still have tickets to sell, so please consider coming out if you fancy a tour of Clarington. I know Joe has got a ticket. Thank you, Joe. And so there's some confusion about a car rally, and we've never done one before, and perhaps we should have called it a car tour. So just to let you know sort of what will happen, you'll meet at the hub to pick up the rally packs and snacks, and then you head to the Visual Arts Center in Clarington for a 5-minute art activity. Then to Stoic axe throwing for a quick target practice, and then you'll get points along the way. So if you get a bullseye with the axe throwing, you'll get points. And then over to Algoma Orchards for some apple sampling and apple bowling. And continuing on to the Newcastle Disc Golf. So that's the Frisbee Golf now at the Newcastle Golf Center. Then over to the Hive Center and Stay, and they've got just a little 5-minute nature experience planned, which sounds amazing. Canadian Tire Motorsport is going to be setting up some pylons, so you can take a drive through the pylons, and depending on how many pylons are still standing after your drive, you'll get a certain number of points. Then some sampling at Archibald Winery, and the petting zoo at Knox Pumpkin Farm, and then ending your tour with a trivia challenge care of Ontario Power Generation Darlington. So it's $60 a vehicle, and we think it's a really great deal, maybe the best deal in town right now. Get everybody out of the house and touring around and having some fun for a day. It's 1 day only, April 2nd, already half sold out, so don't delay, please register. There's a link on our website. And yeah, okay, whew, that was a lot to deliver quickly. Thanks for listening, and thanks for caring about families like ours.
Do you have any idea how long the car rally is supposed to take? That's a lot of places to go.
Yeah, so if you hit every stop, it'll be 90 minutes of driving. And then, you know, if 5 to 10 minutes per stop, assuming you did something at every one, it would be another 90 minutes. So you could spend up to 3 hours.
Very good. Thank you very much. Okay, so a couple of quick announcements. Bill?
Just really quickly, the Bunnies Initiative is in full swing. I've got, as of yesterday morning, we've sold 118 so far. So we have 250 in total, so they're going quickly. I've got some here with me if you're interested. Want to see, $12 each. Good to go.
Yeah. So very quickly, this just came together like sort of a day. April 23rd, we are going to, as part of the Earth Day and Watershed Rotary, the whole shebang, we're going to be teaming up with the Valley's 2,000 people for cleanup of the creeks. April 23rd, that's the day after Earth Day. That's pretty exciting. It'll be really good exposure for us. We can get out there with our Rotary work T-shirts, and people are going to see us at work. The other thing is May 26th. I've arranged for a work/volunteer segment at Feed the Need in Durham. So May 26th, we'll go there from 1 to 4 and see how the place operates, pack some food, and then meet some of the folks. So those are our 2 upcoming. Not sure yet.
To be determined.
Yeah, to be determined. Just coming together now.
Yeah. So that's the Rotary Day of Action. And it's the whole premise is that it's supposed to be 25% non-Rotarians is doing that. It's the Great Lakes Watershed Cleanup. Dan Coons is a Whitby Club that's kind of spearheading this. So great to team up with the valleys and different community volunteers. So should be a good time. Also, I sent it out in the email yesterday. So our next meeting next week is our evening meeting, which is Thursday, the 31st. It's going to be at the Bulldog Pub in Curtis. I do need to have a good idea for numbers just so that they know how much space to allow us. Julie and Nick are members of the Curtis Rotary Club, so we're going to support them. Plan is to, if you want to have dinner, come for 6. The meeting will start around 7, so that we can get the food in and then have not long, just sort of a brief meeting. We're hoping some of the Curtis Club.
Yeah. Do we know of any of Curtis?
I've reached out, haven't heard yet, but yeah.
We should do a Know Your Rotary, one of us and one of them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, sounds great.
Just to be clear, it's actually an option.
It is technically an offshore, yes.
It's not technically an option.
It's offshore.
It's good.
It's south,
Grandview and Blur.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
not technically where that is.
It
Yeah.
looks like
No. No, it's kind of Toronto-ish, right?
GTA-ish, yeah.
It's more like East Jersey.
So our next morning meeting is April 5th, back here. And I just wanted to point out that our April 12th meeting is going to be a rather important meeting. So we want to try and get as many people as we can. We've shelved an issue for almost all of COVID. So we do need to talk about, as a club, our procedures going forward, our openings, our toast to the Queen, so this is something that we've put off. So we're not putting it off anymore. So that's going to be our April 12th meeting. And with that, I believe Leah has our quote of the week.
Good morning, everyone. This morning's quote is from Walt Disney. The more you are in a state of gratitude, the more you will attract things to be grateful for.
Very good. Thank you, Leah. All right. So if there's nothing else for the good of Rotary, we'll call this meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.